Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the mid-season finale of Riverdale. A lot of stuff went down in this episode, so let's kind of break it down. We have Jug and Archie making their way to meet up with Jughead's mom and his sister Jellybean, which is kind of a nice, interesting thing. For one, Jughead's mom is played by Gina Gershon, which she's been in so many things, but it's like I can't narrow down one specific thing because at first I was struggling to remember her. I was like, oh, I know her name, and it was bothering me. Luckily, I got to it before the actor name started popping. I was like Gina Gershon because I knew I got it right, but she's there was that because there's like the one movie I associate with her too is like, is there that movie she did with Jennifer Tilly years ago? I'm blanking on it, but like I feel like there's definitely something else I know her from. Like she's popped up in like TV shows and stuff like that. I'm sure there's like a movie that she's like best well known for, or certain things she's best known for that I'm just might not be familiar with, or just not off at the top of my head. Nevertheless, that's just a pretty dope thing. It's one of those things that's kind of like, oh yeah, like, you know, Fred being played by Luke Perry, which is like, I don't really know Luke Perry's history like that. Like what kind of, I mean, I know he was like a teen sensation when he was younger. Also like the same thing with like Molly Ringwald. Like I'm familiar with her, but I don't think I've ever really seen too much with her, except for like, wasn't she in The Breakfast Club? And even that movie, I only know about mainly a little bit about the movie itself, but mainly parodies. I'm going off on a huge tangent. I do apologize. That's beside all the point. What's interesting about this though is it seems like because it was kind of, you could definitely tell there's a little bit of animosity that, you know, Jughead throws her way because she finds out about like everything he got associated with. He's the king of the serpents and stuff like that. I didn't want you to be a part of that life. It's like, you say that, but it's like you weren't there. Like you're throwing shade on the life I ended up having, but it's like you're up here doing criminal stuff. Y'all are up here chopping stuff from vehicles and selling it. But for her, it's like, oh, I'm taking care of all these kids and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different, which is like, I guess your situation ain't really that much different than the serpents. It's also the thing of like, and Jughead brought it up too. It's like, I literally called you back in like season 1 about the whole situation of like, oh, can I stay with you? And you were like, oh, no, right now it's not a good time. Because it's like, yeah, it seemed like she was trying to have a good life, trying to be away from all that criminal stuff, but just like now you're neck deep in that too. So it's hard to say, you know, it's just kind of an interesting thing because, you know, she wasn't there for a good chunk of his life because he kind of felt like he was left behind. Like he hasn't seen them in such a long time. I thought it was kind of cute though too. It's like, oh yeah, why is Hiram after you? It's like, oh yeah, this and that. Like, oh, so I was dating his daughter. And then like Jellybean or JB is like, wait, what? Yo, and like as in like not dating, as in single. And you had like Jughead being like, yo, Jellybean, calm down. It's like, yo, I even love that his mom was like, oh, I knew you two would get together. Y'all have always been so close. And then Jughead and Archie kind of look at it, just like, we're not together. She's like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But Penny showing up like that and then Jellybean hitting her, bam, and knocking her out was pretty dope. I'm assuming the way that things go down that Gladys killed Penny. I mean, it's also because it's like, yeah, that might have been between you and my boy, but yo, that's my baby boy, so you mess with him, you're messing with me type of thing. And it's like, yeah, we saw her kind of wiping her hands and got super bloody, so it's like, yeah, probably not seeing Penny anymore. Maybe, I don't know, maybe next time we see Penny, she's even more messed up than she was before. Like, I mean, obviously she got her serpent, you know, cut off before, but now it's probably going to be a lot worse next time we see her. But it might be a situation of like, no, she's buried 6 feet deep, so we'll just kind of have to wait and see on that front. But what's kind of interesting is like his mom is actually pretty smart, but I guess it's also because she pumped all that information on her. But it's kind of like you're so caught up in this game and everything, Jug, you don't realize what's in front of you. The fact of the matter is, Hiram ran you out of town, and now the town's kind of becomes acceptable because you weren't there to kind of interfere with what he had in play here. It isn't just about Archie, because that becomes a grand scheme of this entire thing. Like it's about the entire town. Like he wants to, because he's like, oh, what does any king want? A kingdom of his own. This is all about turning Riverdale into his. Now you might, because it's interesting, because it's like, well, obviously you kind of own quite a bit of Riverdale, but it's like Riverdale isn't what he wants it to be. Like obviously I'll kind of talk, well, I'll go ahead and break it down, because like everything that we got pieced together in this episode points out the fact is He's trying to make Riverdale into a criminal den. He wants it to be like this centerfold for criminal activity where it's like he reigns over as king. Everyone else can kind of do the criminal activities, but everyone pays dividends to him essentially. So he gets a little slice of the pie, whether it be drug dealing, whether it be prostitution, which is like kind of the drug dealing thing. That was something that kind of caught me off guard. It's like, because the gargoyles are the ones selling the Fizzle Rock, but it's like, what about the Ghoulies? Like, because they were the ones pumping the Jingle Jangle, but I guess it's like, oh, that's sold last year. Let's get something even more addictive that obviously causes even more hallucinations. That got you high, but like, you know, Jingle Jangle will seriously mess you up on them. I mean, because it's also about affecting you psychologically so that you are more malleable. So that's where that comes into play. So it's like, but I feel like the Ghoulies are kind of getting shafted in this deal. So because it's like they're not kind of doing. I guess it's less work for them, but it's like we haven't really seen what the Ghoulies bring to the table anymore. Maybe I guess they're kind of like, well, I assume they're Hiram's army essentially. We haven't really seen. I mean, to be fair, like you had Penny. I was kind of assuming she was kind of running things as like Queen Bee of the Ghoulies, but maybe not. I mean, if their Queen Bee went missing like that, makes you wonder like what's going to happen on that front. But that, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting because I'm surprised the Ghoulies are kind of like, oh, you're stepping on our territory. But then again, it's like Hiram's the man with the plan with this whole situation. So it's kind of like, yeah, whatever goes down, like I dictate, you serve me. And it's like, I guess no one really, I mean, because it's something that came up. It's like, yeah, Archie's the only one who's ever stood up to Hiram. That's why Hiram doesn't like him a lot. Like no one else really stands out to him like that, you know? So I doubt even the Ghoulies, because Hiram's got a lot of power, position. He is like a true blue, you know, monster. So not someone you really mess with. So there's that side of things, which I think is kind of fascinating. Plus, you've already seen what happens to people who cross him. You end up on his shit list. You either get killed or, you know, just straight up disappear. But even if you disappear, you're going to show up later with, you know, you could end up being a Mineta situation where your head and arms are chopped off. I mean, hands. I mean, to be fair, we don't 100. I mean, it's pointing to it being Mineta, but there's always a possibility of like, no, Mineta's still alive. He's just out somewhere hiding. But to be fair, same thing happened to the boys. But it's just like they became too much of a liability, so Mineta put them down. So it's like, obviously, it's like, yeah, there's no chance of that at this point. I said that out loud, but now I'm sitting there like, nah, Mineta's definitely dead. So yeah, it was definitely his body, because like Hiram wouldn't waste the time and resources, especially because everything would be coming down on Mineta. It's like, yeah, he's a loose end that need to be tied up. So. As always, the sad thing with this whole criminal thing, when you're a bad guy, the person that's over you, that's the leader of this bad guy thing, it's like, yeah, they will kill you at any point in time the moment you prove to be more trouble than you're worth. So you have like, I'm going on a tangent here, but you have Gladys, you know, Jug's mom being like, hey, you need to stay away from Archie, because it isn't just a bounty on Archie, it's a bounty on everyone that helps, and that includes you. If he goes back to Riverdale, that means his dad, that means his friends, anyone close to him will become a target of this bounty too. So, but Archie's like, yo, Jug, you gotta let me go, I gotta go this route alone. Because for one, like I brought that up last episode, I was under the impression Jughead was only gonna get him so far before, you know, turning back himself, but it seems like the story kind of worked its way to that anyway, but still. It's also kind of nice, you know, FP kind of seeing JB again. She's kind of reluctant because, you know, but, you know, Gladys is like, she missed you a lot. She'd rather fight than actually admit it. But even like Gladys, even with their situation, which we still don't 100% know what it is, that it seems like she's very passionate when, like, you know, she cares a lot when it comes to FP, because she hugs him and kisses him. And it's like, yeah, thank you for coming to pick up Jug. Called Fred, and Fred came to pick up Archie. Granted, they can't go off together because Archie knows that if his dad's with him, like Archie's like, my situation is my situation. I'm not going to drag. I mean, that was the whole reason why he let himself get sent to juvie like that, was because he didn't want to get the people he loves mixed up in all this. And it's like, he knows if his dad's along with him, he's going to get caught up in all this. So Archie dyeing his hair, which I'm assuming that must be the actor who plays Archie, KJ Apa, like that has to be like his natural hair. Maybe, I don't know. I've never actually seen him with his natural hair, you know. But it doesn't seem like he's alone because he's bringing his dog along. So it's like, hey, a boy and his dog on some misadventure. I'm curious to actually see. I mean, there's talk about Archie crossing the border and stuff like that to get away, because I guess that was kind of the thought of like, oh, like, you know, Hiram's reach won't be that far, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. But it's like, I'm curious to see what Archie's story going to be in that regard, because there was part of me halfway expecting him to go back home to fight for this, but I guess for him it's like, even if he fought, it would just cause more trouble for everyone around him if he fought, so him being away is kind of the right thing. But it's going to be interesting to see what Archie's story ends up becoming in that regard. All the while, you had the whole situation at the Sisters of Quiet Mercy. I was actually surprised. I was like, oh man, last time we saw, like, oh, Betty's caught up in this, she's enthralled. But it's like, no, anytime she's playing the part, and anytime Fizzle Rock came about, she would throw it up. So, but then, like, I like she was kind of messing with Ethel. She was kind of like, hey, like, oh, the Gargoyle King told me this and that. Like, I was his favorite. Ethel's like, no, you're lying. That's not possible. And you wouldn't be worthy. And she locks Ethel up, and because it makes her realize, like, oh yeah, everything that we've seen here is all part of the fizzy rock meant to kind of keep us sedated in this situation. And, you know, because I was part of me was like, oh, like something's actually going to happen to Ethel, isn't it, Sally? It's like, no, it was all a delusion. That was the whole point. It was supposed to keep them in a position where they could be malleable, that they could be shifted. And it's such an interesting concept to me. Like, you know, that's what it's all about. Like, it was a testing ground in many different regards, because, well, for one, it's kind of nice, and it's kind of sad too, because you see how Ethel's so, like, broken down, because it's like, you know, this whole thing that had kind of become her everything. It's like, oh yeah, it's just delusions. It was all fear meant to keep her docile, essentially, keep her complacent. And so together, her and Betty worked together to kind of fix this situation, taking Sister Woodhouse and pumping her for information. And it turns out this runs very deep, that they're actually technically the creators of G&G, because the Sisters of Quiet Mercy are willing to do whatever it takes to fix people. Because, like, all the girls that come here are broken. You know, like, oh, we have to fix them. And so their main motivation, as we can tell by, is fear, because they would take kids down there and scare the crap out of them with that gargoyle, and obviously that plays a part with the whole fizzy rock. It makes you wonder to what extent everything happened. Like, is the fizzy rocks 100% a new thing? Has it always been kind of a thing working in the background in some shape or form? I feel like it is definitely, it's most like a new thing that's helping to revamp their game, because that's something I'm curious about. Because Hiram, it's me talking ahead of and everything, but it's like Hiram did say that this plan has been in motion for a long time. Remember, the whole fizzy rock thing existed like years ago during the Midnight Club situation. So it's kind of like, okay, so who gave Hiram the drugs back then? Like, I mean, who's his manufacturer and all this? I'd assume it's the same person from all those years ago. Like, because I'm assuming maybe this has something to do with Hiram's side of the family, because we haven't really delved into that at all. So maybe, like, you know, he's completing some long thing, you know, because obviously, like, when running in a family like that, it's kind of like it's in your DNA. Like, so Hiram, I mean, to be fair, maybe Hiram wasn't a crime boss, but his dad, or some, you know, people, dad, grandfather might have been, and it passed down to him, or maybe he's the first crime boss in his family. Who knows? But it just, like I said, it just makes me wonder how much of an extent that whole fizzy rock situation played out, like, in the Sisters of Quiet Mercy. Because it turns out, like, kids trying to cope with their fears did many different things to try and cope. In one of those cases, someone created G&G. That game was specifically created in the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, but it got out. So that means that the Gargoyle King in all this situation, which I guess, because that was still kind of something I was kind of confused about, whether it's like the Gargoyle King ended up creating G&G, or whether G&G created the Gargoyle King like that, because it all comes back to who was the original Gargoyle King. Was it someone that was inspired by, you know, scared of that statue and manifested the Gargoyle King to face their fear? You know, it's what it seemed like it was kind of implying. So it's like whoever's a part of this whole situation was someone that was a part of the Sisters of Quiet Mercy. Now, I'm interpreting that as also being like, it's got to be having some kind of connection to the farm, because the farm seems like it's kind of all about that too, you know? So, because the thing that's interesting about this whole situation is, obviously we're talking about the seizures and stuff like that happened, because it started with Betty. Betty was the first example of it. Then it happened to Ethel, then Josie, then it happened to, like, all of the cheer squad except for except for Cheryl, because it even got Veronica and Tony. But I don't see Veronica, because she didn't even know about the fizzy rock. So it's like, it's not even that. But it is a situation of whatever it is, Hiram was connected, because Hermione was like, it was supposed to never affect our daughter, but it came back. But he's like, it's a miscalculation. So it's like, what exactly is pumping? Like, is it something in the air, the water? That's like, I guess maybe it's kind of spillage from the manufacturing of the fizzy rock. Maybe it's in the water supply, and now it's starting to affect people because it's in more and more doses and stuff like that, or something. I don't know, because I don't see at what point in time, like, what's causing the seizures for this to happen to people. Because, like, the only thing I think of is, like, well, what happened to Betty at that time? It's like, well, she was stressed and stuff like that, but it's like her mom and Polly were gathered around a fire, so I was like, well, something burning in the air that made that happen to make her kind of hallucinate, like the twins kind of flying and being thrown into the fire and then passing out. Like, what, you know, what's the extent to all of that? So what was interesting too is how Ethel and Betty ended up freeing everybody, the girls there, and that's by creating the Griffin Queen. I thought that was kind of a nice element. So it's like, I guess it's going to be more so like, you know, Betty leading the charge in this revolution to kind of stuff. I mean, it's like it's an attack from multiple fronts, because you have Jughead, you know, probably going to do his side of things, and Betty being the Griffin Queen, but you have Veronica and Cheryl doing their thing too, because Cheryl's neck deep in this because it's like her boo got affected with this whole situation, and she knows her mom's behind it, and it pisses Veronica off is that her dad's behind this. He's up to more terrible stuff, because for her it's like she helped her dad, you know, last season kind of spread his criminal enterprise and stuff like that. Innocent people like Archie got hurt, and so now she's trying to make sure that whatever she does, she stops him and what he's got planned, confronting him in front of all those people, because obviously you can tell, like, it's not like everyone's corrupted in this situation. Hiram is, you know, Hermione is, and so is Penelope, because they're all kind of working together, but everyone else that was in that room talking about, like, oh, what's happening to the kids wasn't a part of it, because Alice and Weatherby seemed like they were kind of blissfully ignorant about it when Veronica brought up her accusations and stuff like that. Then Cheryl was kind of like, yo, where's the Vixens at? He's like, oh, they're at Riverdale General. It's like, you're BSing. You literally pulled that out your ass. And then they saw Cheryl, you know, Penelope faint, and it's like, oh my gosh, she has a seizure. And you could tell Cheryl's just kind of like, oh, geez. Because after she literally gave Hiram and Hermione the look of like, oh yeah, let me do this, to kind of stop all this questioning. So but you know, because we brought up the whole conversation of prostitution, I kind of forgot that I was like, right, they never explicitly said like that's exactly what she was doing, but they were pretty frank about like that's what Penelope was up to last season. I think this is like the first time they've actually used the word prostitution. I don't think, like, when it comes to the, like, everything Penelope's up to, like, I don't think they've ever used that before now. Like, is that just her? Like, do you think that's what the Sisters Acquired Mercy were actually doing? Like were those girls eventually going? I hope not. That'd be super fucked up. But, like, you can't help but kind of think that, because it's like, and you're putting them in a position where they're very malleable and stuff like that. You can control, like, you're testing it. Like, I'm sure you're just testing the drug to test the drug, but it's like you ended up testing it on a whole bunch of girls. It can't help make me think, like, you were into some very sinister, fucked up shit. That's my interpretation. Maybe that's not what Penelope had it all planned, but it's like, I mean, I don't know. You're kind of an evil lady. You're just kind of evil at every turn, you know? So it's kind of like, I don't know. You did kind of have Veronica and Cheryl kind of joining forces to try and stop all of this, kind of recruiting like the OTC boys, which included Moose and Kevin. What's also interesting, though, is the fact is, I was wondering about it when Hiram being like, oh, he wasn't too concerned about the outside world. I was like, okay. I was like, so he must have something set up so it's like the outside world won't interfere. I mean, we saw that he kind of has a little bit of range outside of Riverdale, but I was like, your power can't be that power. It's like, okay. So he got the governor on his side, and like, obviously there's a lockdown, the CDC and stuff like that. It's all meant to be some excuse. And so I'm like, okay. So basically, so he can run the criminal enterprise he wants to without hesitation. It's like by making it like a place that's protected by the CDC. It's like calling in the CDC, making it seem like an official thing. Like this whole kids having seizures and stuff like that is probably to cause an epidemic. And all he has, well, I mean, it seems like the governor's in on what Hiram's doing, but maybe using them was kind of a precursor to make it go like, oh man, there's more and more kids passing out every day. This is more of a thing, using them as a cover and a front for his shady business. Or it was just simply him being like, you know, governor, calling the CDC. They don't actually have to do anything. We just need them there to be a front. So it's like, are they there because they think they're actually needed and they're being used as a front, or were they being called just to be a front and they kind of know it? That's the question. And a whole string of things, because the whole question becomes like, how much does certain people know and how involved are they with all of this? Because it seems like this situation even seems like it's taking its toll on Hermione, because even she was kind of a little devastated, and she's even drinking after having made the call. Like, it was already too late by the time Veronica, Cheryl, and the boys showed up to try and stop her. So everything's kind of set in motion, and, you know, Hiram's got his kingdom, and right in front of him is the Gargoyle King, whoever it is. I'm thinking whoever the Gargoyle King is, it has to be a lady. I'm just assuming, just because it's like, wherever the gang came from originally was the Sisters of Quiet Mercy. There's always girls there, so it's like, maybe, you know, like, it's got to be a lady that's the Gargoyle King. Maybe, potentially, I don't know. You know, if this ended up being connected to the farm, maybe Edgar's doing this on behalf of his wife or something. Because like I said, that's something that's there. It's been tiptoeing in the background, but it's never been the main focus. And I'm curious to see if that focus kind of changes later on in the season, or what, or, you know, or do both stories kind of blend together? Because a lot of stuff last season were just kind of like, oh, the Black Hood and everything Hiram was doing. Like, it was kind of like, oh, it was a situation that kind of balanced itself, and like Black Hood stuff kind of worked in Hiram's favor. So it's kind of that situation of like, I feel like this Gargoyle King stuff might be connected to the farm, or maybe it's its own thing, and the farm just happens to be a background thing that they're potentially setting up to be a much bigger thing than it is. I don't know. We'll kind of have to see on that front, but it looks like Riverdale once again will never kind of be the same. We have FP and Jughead being locked out of the town. Things inside the town not looking good because Hiram's kind of got his kingdom. So where we go from here, who knows? Is there going to be any way of stopping him? Because Jug's thought was kind of like the only way to stop someone like Hiram is from the inside. So the only way to make this all go away is to topple him. But it's like, well, the power he's got and position he's in, I guess like now it might make sense of like, yeah, we'll have the ghoulies kind of being like enforcers to kind of run the town and stuff like that. Like I said, if they're not being the ones used to manufacture the drugs at the prison and stuff like that, not unless they're kind of like the hired prison guards type of thing. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. Sadly, we will be waiting a little while because Riverdale is going on a bit of a break, and it will be returning on January 16th. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, all out to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good